Tired of her husband's tradition, the wife brought home a homeless man, and the most unexpected thing happened. Dina, who had just left work, went directly to the supermarket. She remembered that on that day, she would be 4 years married to her husband, so she decided to surprise him. She wanted to make him a delicious dinner, share a cake, even though only 5 months ago, her husband left her for another woman. You see, that was not the first time her husband did that. In the last year, he left her for other women at least 3 times. But after 2 months, he always came home, saying that Dina was the only woman in his life. He would ask for her forgiveness on his knees and cry his eyes out for her to accept him. He would say that no one could be the same as her, so he would ask for one more opportunity, promising that he would never leave her again and even less for another woman. On the 3rd occasion, when the man left with another woman, 4 long months passed and he did not return home. Dina cried this time, thinking that he would not return. However, it was not like that. 4 months and 2 weeks later, her husband reappeared with a bouquet of flowers and a chocolate box. Dina, instead of being angry with him, she hugged him tightly. "My love," she said to him, and he replied, "I came home, and this time I swear I will never leave you again. There is no woman that can compare to you." As always, Dina believed in his words and received him. And now she was coming home to celebrate her wedding anniversary. She decided to forget all the bad things and start all over again. And no matter how much her friends and family told her to leave that bad, unfaithful, and troublesome man, Dina did not listen. She said, "I love him and he loves me. Our love is very strong and will overcome all the obstacles of life." That's how the woman put the food to cook to make the delicious dinner, and after having everything ready, she decided to dress herself. She took a bath, she wore a very elegant and at the same time provocative dress. She brushed her hair, perfumed herself, and waited. It was only a few minutes before her husband arrived, but time passed and he did not show up. An hour passed, 2 hours passed. Dina was disappointed. Then she opened the bottle of wine and drank it alone. In her last sip, she raised her hand and toasted, "For my blessed luck, you'll come." And that's how the woman went to bed totally drunk. Early the next morning at about 5 in the morning, she heard the door of her house open and suddenly she heard some snoring coming from the living room. It was obvious that her husband had arrived and went to sleep on the couch. Dina then hugged the pillow tightly and cried. She cried because she didn't expect this to happen on such a special day, and knowing that her husband forgot their anniversary made her sad and suffer even more. "Why is he not loving to me?" she asked herself. Dina got up and found her husband sleeping on the couch, but something caught her attention. She noticed that on his white shirt there were stains of what looked like lipstick. She could not believe it. For Dina, it was a very hard blow to know that her husband was still the cheater he had always been, that he never changed and perhaps never will. He even smelled strongly of woman's perfume. Then she woke him up. "Hey, Dina, let me sleep," pronounced the man as he opened his eyes. "Why do you smell like a woman's perfume and have lipstick on your shirt?" asked the wife. "But what are you talking about? I'm not for your reproaches, Dina. Yesterday I had a lot of work and I stayed up late. Please respect my sleep." And the man went back to sleep. This time, Dina was really angry. It seemed that she had woken up to reality, so she took some garbage bags, went to her bedroom, and started to put some of the man's clothes. Then she went to the living room again and woke him up again. "Come on, get up. Take your clothes. At this very moment, you are leaving my house. How is it possible? Yesterday was our anniversary and you were having fun with another woman. But what do you think you are doing? I have already forgiven you on many occasions. Go away. Get out. My mother was right. You are a bad man, a womanizer who will never change. Who knows who you are sleeping with? And then it comes if you touch me, no more. Go away, make your life and let me live mine. I don't want to suffer anymore because of you." You throw me out all of a sudden? Well, okay, I'm leaving. You know I have many places where you can receive me with a lot of love. By the way, for the record, you are throwing me out. Bye. That's how the man took all of his bags and left. Dina listened as he closed that door, as never in her life she cried, but she swore that this would be the last time a man would make her suffer. Since then, more than half a year passed, and this time that man still did not appear. The woman was saddened, but she realized that it was the right thing to do and even thought about filing for divorce as soon as possible because she had already let too much time pass. However, it required a certain amount of money to hire a lawyer, but well, the most important thing now was her well-being. So she tried to cope with the situation. Every day, she accepted everything that happened. It was not easy, but she had no other choice. She was a young woman, and she could not join in depression and loneliness. However, one day when she was walking down the street, she had an impulse that made her look inside a restaurant through a window, and there in one of the tables lay that man who made her suffer with another woman. Both were enjoying a nice dinner with candles around, completely happy. Never before had something like this happened with him. He looked really happy. She was a very beautiful girl, well-dressed, much younger, very well-cared hair, made up, a very curvy body. Dina didn't want to see any more and went on her way. When she got home, she decided it was time to remodel everything, to leave the past completely behind, and that implied not having something that reminded her of him. So she took some bags and threw everything in them: watches, video games, things he had given as gifts, and other things he bought with the woman's money, such as clothes, tools, among other things. She wanted to get rid of everything, but she did not know who to give it to. She did not want to give it to her neighbors, friends, or relatives because she was ashamed of everything that was happening. So she left the things in one place until she found the right people. At least now everything that reminded her of the man who hurt her was out of sight. One day, as she was leaving work, Dina noticed a homeless man standing nearby. He looked disoriented. The woman felt sorry for him. In fact, where she works, it is almost difficult to see homeless people, so she approached him to give him some coins, and he looked up. Dina realized that he was just a young man. She gave him the money. The homeless man thanked her, and the woman left. Of course, she was left wondering how a person could end up like this. She felt grateful to at least have a home, a place to sleep, to spend her days. She also thought maybe she could give him some of the clothes her husband had left behind. However, Dina didn't see him again until 3 weeks later. While walking home in a park, she saw him sitting on a bench. She knew it was him because of the bag he was carrying. "Hello," Dina said to him. The homeless man looked up, confused. "Do you remember me? I gave you money a few days ago." The homeless man hardly spoke. "Have you eaten today?" asked the woman. The man just shook his head. She then asked him to wait for her and went to buy food at a nearby restaurant, then came back and gave it to him. The man could not believe it. She sat down next to him and saw how he ate so desperately it made her sad, and she asked him, "Excuse me, but how did you get here? Don't you have anyone? What is your name?" The homeless man kept thinking and then turned to her. "The truth is that I don't know myself. I only remember that I was in an abandoned house. I had a wound on my head and other parts of my body. I was in a lot of pain. I don't even know how I got there. I don't remember what happened before. I don't remember who I am, and there was no one who knows how to recognize me. I was walking everywhere. I tried to find a job, but no one would accept me because I don't even have a document. When I went to the police, they only told me, 'You are a drug addict. You are crazy. Get out of here.' I had no answers. No one would listen to me." Dina was stunned by such a confession. When he finished the meal, she simply told him, "Oh, I'm sorry for what I'm hearing. The truth is, I don't know what to tell you. I'm really sorry for what is happening to you. You know, winter is coming. I live very close to here. My husband left some coats. I'm sure they could be useful for you." The homeless man could not believe that someone cared so much about him. However, he refused, but the woman insisted. That's how the homeless man walked towards her house, shyly. When he arrived, she asked him to wait for her outside and took out a bag with many coats. However, she felt she could help him more. She knew how dirty he was, his clothes totally unkempt, so she invited him to take a shower. The homeless man was surprised by the confidence the woman gave him. "Madam, thank you for your noble gesture, but it is not necessary," he replied. However, Dina insisted again that there was no problem, that he would be happy to take a shower at her house and go out with new clothes. So the homeless man once again accepted her invitation and went to the woman's house, gave him soap, a towel, a change of clothes, and even a pair of scissors and a razor. The homeless man then went into the bathroom, and while he was taking a shower, Dina turned on the stove and prepared something to eat for him. That's how after a few minutes she heard the door open, and she couldn't believe it. A beautiful man was lying in front of her. Now he was clean, shaved, and groomed. He was a different person, as if he had never been hungry or homeless. "Wow, you look great." "Thank you," said the young man. "I have prepared you something to eat." "Oh, no need. You have done enough, my lady." "Don't call me lady. In fact, yes, I am married, but very soon I will be divorced." "Oh, I'm sorry," said the homeless man. "You don't have to be sorry. On the opposite, I'm glad he's no longer in my life. He was a bad man, you know." "I understand," he said, but before the homeless man took another step, this one had a dizzy spell that made him fall down. "Are you okay?" said the woman. Yes. From time to time this happens to me. I get a horrible pain in my head and I get completely weak." "Oh, I understand. You better sit on the sofa. Take a rest. You don't need to leave now," Dina said. That's how the man fell asleep on the couch. Dina let him rest, but after a few hours, she noticed that apparently he was having nightmares. So she approached or tried to wake him up. He was sweating. He seemed to have a very high fever. Dina was scared and called a nurse friend of hers who lived very close. That's how after a few minutes, the nurse arrived. "And this handsome man, where did you get him?" "My friend, it's a long story. I'll tell you later. I just don't know what's wrong with him." "What's his name?" asked the nurse. "I don't know," replied Dina. "He doesn't know either. He says he doesn't remember anything." "Okay, I'll examine him." That's how the boy came over, greeted, and told her that he had a bad headache. The nurse then gave him some pain pills and recommended a doctor for the problem he has, that possibly the blow he had left severe contusions. The homeless man wanted to leave, but Dina and the nurse told him that it could be very dangerous if he was not treated in time. "But I don't have any documents. How could they treat me?" The nurse said, "Don't worry, you will go to the hospital where I work and they will treat you." So he stayed at Dina's house for the night. The next morning they went to the hospital and the doctor examined him. He did some tests, and in a few days they would find out what he would really have. In the meantime, they gave him medicine for the pain. They also recommended him to rest during these days. Dina insisted the man to stay at her house to help him with everything. At the same time, she began to realize that she liked him a lot. In fact, he was a gentleman. When she came home from work, he would wait with the food already made and even made her breakfast. He would even tidy up and clean the house. He was a very attentive man. He said, "It is the least I can do for you. You have helped me a lot. I never thought I would receive help in this way. Thank you for everything, Dina." It was at that moment that he hugged her tightly and even kissed her hand. The woman was completely shaken. It had been a long time since she felt the sincere affection of a man, and they even watched television together. Dina no longer felt lonely. Once the homeless man asked her, "And why did your husband leave?" "The truth is that I am ashamed to talk about this, but I will tell you, he cheated on me on many occasions, and no matter how much I forgave him, he was still the same. That's why I threw him out of the house. I just haven't divorced him yet. Making those papers costs a lot of money. I'm still saving." "What a fool," said the man. "I wouldn't leave a woman as good and beautiful as you." The girl turned red. Finally, 2 weeks passed, and they both went to the hospital to receive the diagnosis. Fortunately, there was nothing wrong with him, but he still had to continue with the medications, and even with the hypnosis therapy to recover his memory, little by little, the man stopped having pains in his head. One day, while the nurse came to visit Dina, she told her, "You know, for me, he was never a homeless man. Look at him. He looks good. A little skinny, yes, but he looks like a model, don't you think so, Dina?" The young woman blushed. "Have you told your parents that there is another man in your house?" "For the moment, I like to help him in his health, and he is better than before. In this short time, he has recovered, but he still doesn't remember anything." "Ah, but surely one day he will, and in the meantime, what shall we call him? Beautiful?" The young woman then laughed. However, one day when Dina came home from work with some cakes to share with the man, she was surprised as she found a letter on the table. "Dear Dina, you don't know how much I thank you for everything you did for me. This morning, I finally remembered who I am. I would have waited for you and told you personally, but I feel this comes first. I took some bills you had left on the table. Believe me, I thought about it a lot. I don't want you to think I'm a thief. I promise to pay you back. Love, Boris." That's how Dina learned his name and dropped a tear on the paper. She felt she would never see him again. A day passed, 2 days, but nothing. Then she called her friend the nurse to tell her about what happened. She arrived at Dina's house and tried to calm her down. "Don't worry, friend, maybe he will come. You fell in love with him, right? And who wouldn't if he was so handsome? But come on, cheer up, he will come back." However, at that moment when the nurse turned on the TV, they heard a really unexpected news. "Hey, isn't he Boris? Look at him, he's all dressed up," said the nurse. Dina couldn't believe it. Then they both listened to the journalist. After a year and a half of searching, the businessman Boris Smirnov appeared. His family is really happy to have found him. But the bad news is that his wife and coworker were imprisoned. It was confirmed that his wife was cheating on him with his best friend, and both had sent him to be beaten and left him in an abandoned house thinking that he was dead. Nevertheless, the businessman is here denouncing those horrible facts. This is how the owner of a fleet of boats dedicated to providing services to tourists said, "I am back again, and there are many things to clarify. Fortunately, my ex-wife is already behind bars, and who I considered my best friend has just been found and arrested. I will not rest until they pay for everything they did to me. They have stolen a lot of money. They were in agreement to disappear me and keep everything I have built so far. I will not allow it. That is all I have to say." At that moment, Dina began to cry. "Friend, why are you crying?" asked the nurse. "Can't you see? He's a businessman. You think he's going to come around this neighborhood again? Besides, he didn't even call me or anything. But it doesn't matter. I've been through worse things." "My friend, he's coming back," said the nurse. "Don't cry anymore." Finally, a week passed and no more news from Boris. On that day, when Dina was coming home from work, she realized that her still husband was outside waiting for her. "I see you changed the door lock, my love. Forgive me, I was a fool, a big blind man who didn't realize the woman who was next to him. I would like you to forgive me. I still love you and I can't forget you." The man knelt down, took her hands, and began to cry. Dina was saying, "Let me go. I don't want anything to do with you. In fact, I have already hired a lawyer for the divorce. You better sign it when you get the document." "But please, love, you can't leave me." "Yes, I can. Please go away. Let me go." "Leave her alone," a man's voice was heard approaching. Dina turned and was stunned. The handsome Boris was getting out of a luxurious car to visit her. "You better back off. You heard she doesn't want anything to do with you," Boris said. Dina then walked to where he was. She threw herself into his arms. She cried with happiness to see him again. "I'm so sorry for leaving like that. All I wanted was to solve this problem. Believe me, just now I was able to get rid of it. I didn't call you because I didn't know how to tell you. I felt ashamed of all the evil they did to me. But now you must know everything, dear Dina. I would never want to get away from you again. Do you want to be with me? Do you want to be my girlfriend?" Dina hugged him even tighter and both kissed each other, a kiss that left her ex-partner speechless. Of course, he had no choice but to leave because to look for a fight would be worse. This is how the fabulous story ended, where two souls came together to love each other for life. If Dina had never helped the homeless man, the people who hurt him would have gotten away with it. And it also shows that behind a bad couple, there will always be someone better, don't you think?